One question we got is around what type of content, right? So Mark, you talk a lot about the passion and the authenticity. Like let's get down into the nitty gritty. Like what's the best way to represent that, right? So the question we specifically got was around memes, which we actually saw was the about 70% of Gen Z said that memes were their favorite type of content that brands post in our most recent survey. But Jake, you also mentioned stuff like short form video. Curious to hear your thoughts on this, Jake, to start off. Why do you think memes are so popular with Gen Z, but also what other type of content really resonates with Gen Z across these different platforms?
Yeah, of course. What I would say in terms of that is that, and this is a conversation I get asked quite a bit. I think for a lot of us in marketing and brand building, we're thinking about the question incorrectly, because at the end of the day, the answer between memes, not necessarily versus video, but memes, short form video, UGC versus professional, the reality is that's really not the question we should be asking. The question we should be asking instead is, how do we build a community? Who is our end consumer base and how do we create for them? Now, my favorite example of this, I highly recommend giving them a look, is a brand called Truff Hot Sauce. They're an incredible disruptor in the space, incredible story in terms of a company. And when you listen to the founders of the company, they purchased the Instagram account at Sauce. And I'm directly quoting them right now. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but we posted saucy content. That was the entire purpose. They weren't a hot sauce brand. They just wanted to post quote unquote saucy content on social media and build up a large following. Well, then they do that and they realize, wait a second now, we have this community of people that follow us that like our saucy content. I know I sound very much like a Gen Z right now. I apologize. But all of that said, what if we just launch a hot sauce brand? And then of course they do it. It's incredible product design. So they did that incredibly well. But when you start with building the community first and then delivering them a product, that's an interesting way to look at it. And one of the things I advise a lot more of our brands to be doing is, rather than just running your company social medias, is there potential for you to launch a media brand that is in a similar category, that isn't tied down to a corporate company with brand standards and all that other crap that slows down the creative process, that can be its own personality? And can you do that and launch at a particular community? So to me, that should be the first question. And then from there, you're going to know what the answer is. And it's probably going to be a combination of all of the above, but there's not necessarily a silver bullet solution between what platform and what style of content. And what the reality is, it's all of the above. And what it comes down to is what the end audience is, and then how you're creating for that end audience.
Yeah, no, I love that, Jake. And, you gave a great example of a brand that did the community first and then monetize that community with a product, which I think is the way the kind of creator economy is going, right? Like we hear about that all the time. These influencers that really build an amazing following, build an amazing community, and then find ways to monetize it. What you brought up is really interesting because we're actually doing work right now with a couple different brands where we're going kind of backtracking, right? Like they have a brand, they have a strong a brand presence, but they don't necessarily have that community with Gen Z, right? So helping them understand through insights, well, who are like your ideal community members, right? Like what are that kind of core kind of cult following you have today? How could we kind of find those people within Gen Z? What channels are they on? What are they looking for in terms of content from you? Mark, curious to hear if you've had similar experiences. I know you work with a lot of brands that are in a similar position that, don't have that are working with that baggage of being an older and established brand. How are you helping them, and how are you kind of walking them through that process of building that community with Gen Z?
Well, I love what Jake took you through there, kind of that architecture, and I love that. That was fantastic. So I'll give it to you from and I'll say it from an older marketer, right? I can say that because I'm a Gen Xer. But I liked on the flip side what some brands have done, and you guys might say, oh, it's so darn commercial. But you talked about memes earlier this summer or spring. Bud Light also launched the search for a chief meme officer, right? Doritos just in the last few weeks on TikTok has launched the search for an official taste tester. So I like that approach too, where it's, all right, well, what's popular with Gen Zers, whether it's a platform, Instagram, TikTok, whether it's something like memes, or whether it's just a really cool experience, like I'm going to be the official taste tester at Doritos, right? Or the director of taco relations at McCormick Spices. I like that too, because I think it's, at least when I'm with my students and these things come up, and they do come up, and they're right away like, yeah, I want that. And so it goes back to this idea of unique experiences, unique access. All of a sudden, I'm going to be this, taste tester at Doritos, or the chief meme officer for Bud Light Seltzer. So even though I know that's kind of more traditional in its approach and not what Jake just took you through, I like it because it's different, it's unique, it's innovative. I mean, we could replicate that same formula, a chief emoji officer, a chief Instagram. We can do it for every brand out there. But I think it's at least the idea of, okay, well, at least we're going to channels, content, things that Gen Z is interested in, and we're offering them something that's just a little bit different, a little bit unique, that for the 1 or 2 or 3 Gen Zers that get the opportunity, this could be really unique and different. And then it becomes obviously a whole content creation. I mean, as the taste tester for Doritos, you're not just, you may be tasting Doritos, but more importantly, you are sharing that content on a regular basis, across Doritos' own channels as well as your channels.